Let me put my smart glasses on first. Today we have a theory session on typography.
Okay, I found this on the web for session on typography. Check it out.
Thank you, Siri. Thank you. Hello? Anyways. Hello my friends, welcome back to another video. My name is Daria. I'm a self-taught graphic designer, illustrator, and content creator. During my learning journey, I was taking tons of notes, and now I have all of that knowledge safely preserved on my iPad. You can say, Daria, are you like a typography expert? Like, why should I be listening to you? And I would say I'm not a typography expert, but I definitely know how to operate the principles of typography, use it in 99% of my works. This topic is kind of close to my heart and I'm really excited about it. So I'm not a teacher by any means, but I'll try my best to be clear and to explain you the basics in a little 10-slide presentation. We're gonna go slide by slide. I'll also put the entire presentation in the description down below this video. You can download it for free and use it for future reference. With all that being said, let's just get into it. I'm not going to talk about typography history because that's not what we're here for. I'm just going to dive right into the theory. I feel like this video is also a practice for me This video is a practice for my presentation skills because uni starts very soon. Typography, among color, composition, layout, is the foundation of design. Some designers may disagree, but in my humble opinion, typography is the prominent aspect. The definition of typography: it's an art of arranging type to create effective communication. You know, you can have a black and white poster, you can have such a strong typographic message that everyone understands you, while you may have the brightest poster ever and then the typography is just all over the place and everyone is just looking at your poster and being like, what does this person want to say with that, you know? Knowing typography, knowing how to navigate different kinds of fonts, styles, knowing the psychology of typography, which we're gonna get into a little bit later, is crucial for design. There are three main definitions that designers need to know how to navigate. Now, I'm not as confused as I used to be, but I literally had to double check whether I'm being right or wrong when it comes to these while working on this presentation. So, a type family is a group of typefaces sharing a set of design characteristics. So, as an example here, we have Friedrich Pro. A type family not only includes this typeface and all of its styles, which are like light, book, bold, and whatnot, it also includes all of the variations of this typeface. And you can have a rounded version, maybe an old styled version, maybe a more kind of calligraphic version. All the versions, stylizations of this typeface is called a type family. And now is where we have kind of an issue. Typeface is a visual design of the letter forms, all of the visual characteristics, the way it looks, and a font is a digital file that represents this typeface on the screen. These two definitions often get mismatched with each other because design these days is highly digitized. We got used to calling typefaces fonts. So yes, there is a difference between these two definitions, but nobody's gonna die if you call a typeface, if you call it a font. Let me summarize this. You have a typeface which is called tenon. Then you have different styles of this typeface which are extra light, light, regular. These are primarily used to create visual hierarchy, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. And then you have a font which is also called tenon. That's why we have confusion happening here. In this case, it's a digital file that allows you to represent this typeface on the screen. I hope this is clear. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'm recording this video for God knows which time because it's so hard to explain it. When I was learning graphic design, it took me a good couple of months. If somebody came to me in the street and were like, what's the difference? I would be like, moving on, I want to talk about font classifications. See, like I call them fonts because it's faster to say. There are 8 main typeface classifications. The first 4 are serifs, sans serifs, scripts, and slab serifs. I know that I said that I'm not going to give you any historical context, just a short observation. Serifs were the first typefaces to emerge. I would say they appeared, if I'm not being wrong, in Greek and Latin writings. These typefaces have this really like sharp elements over here, so-called serifs. Serifs are often being perceived as kind of an old style typefaces, and that's why serifs are often used in like documentation, in books, to convey more serious aesthetic. In contrast to that, sans serifs are more modern typefaces. Sans translates as without from French, so they don't have the serif element here. Sans serifs are more modern and were popularized when printing arose because they're less contrasty and thus appear clearer, and it's simpler to decipher them on print and digital screens. When it comes to scripts, these are based on very neat, fancy, calligraphic handwriting, I would say. They are not really used in body text. I mean, I wouldn't advise you to use them in body text. They're more kind of decorative and maybe used in headlines or accent details. Similar to serifs, they have highly contrasting letter form elements. In contrast to many other groups of typefaces, they don't have a straight angle between the letters and the baseline. They're kind of like tilted a little bit. Flap serifs are a type of serif fonts. Their serifs are thicker and bolder. They look like a combination on sans serif fonts and serif fonts because they're not as contrasty in terms of letter form design and their width and resemble of sans serif fonts, but they still have the serifs, which are thicker and bolder. These are used primarily as headlines, statement making, very standing out, often used on print and in newspapers. The other four classifications of typefaces are more decorative. Handwritten classification is kind of childlike version of script fonts. Can I say it like that? Handwritten fonts are kind of the way you would write in your journal. So like casual writing. These are used more for me, as I did here in my presentation, little annotations, little notes here and there. Decorative fonts, and often they're called display fonts. These differ highly from other type classifications because they don't have a distinct visual characteristic to them. They vary drastically. They can be thick, they can be thin, they can be whatever you want them to be, and I feel like that's their purpose. They're just there to be, to grab attention and to look cool and fun. Monospace fonts differ from other groups with their equal horizontal space that each letter occupies. So as an example here, I took last group of typefaces which we are about to discuss, black letter. Here, similar to other groups, these and those have proportional space between letters. So each letter occupies different horizontal spacing. But with monospaced fonts, they were primarily used for computing and programming to make it easier for programmers to make the text clearer and easier to operate. And finally, the black letter typefaces, very stylized, old-fashioned. They have their history going back to medieval Western writing. They're really hard to decipher and read sometimes. That's why they're not so often used as sans serifs or even slab serifs. Now we're moving on to more functional attributes of typography. Legibility refers to the ability to decipher and understand the text. Are you actually able to see it and read it and to understand the information? The main text shouldn't be too light or too bold, so how easy it is to read. If it's too light, sometimes you cannot even see the letters, and sometimes too light text is not even printable on the posters. Too bold text, again, it's really hard to read it. Blocks of text, they look too saturated to the eye, so it's completely illegible. Probably the most important principle here is that the text to background contrast should be clearly visible. Highly contrasting light text on dark black background, you can clearly see the text. But here, as an example, blue background, light pink text, you can barely read what's going on in here. Maybe in some artistic solutions in posters, I even do that, like sometimes using not very contrasting color variations. But for the designs where information is the key aspect, having this text to background contrast is completely essential. Readability is kind of a similar concept to legibility, but it refers to the extent to which a text is appealing to a reader. So using dark text on light background is easier to decipher, especially for people with astigmatism. Astigmatism, I actually googled that. Astigmatism, I have that. A common and generally treatable imperfection in the curvature of the eye that causes blurred distance and near vision. It escalates when you're having the white text on the black background because it kind of like lights up and it becomes even more blurry. Articles to print designs and magazines and whatnot, using dark text on light background is preferable. Another aspect of readability is using serifs, because serifs are highly legible and that's why they're often used in prints and books. Accentuation to the ends of the strokes, so these like sharp and neat serifs, they may help the reader to read faster and avoid fatigue. So serif fonts, they kind of have this flow going on in here, so it's easier to the eye to go from one letter to another. When it comes to your paragraph structure, adding paragraph dividers, so these like spaces between paragraphs and indents, these spaces in the beginning of each line of the paragraph may help to make your text easier to navigate and the information to be more structured. Another aspect is using flush left and reg right alignment. We're used to reading from left to right, not from right to left. Flush left means that the text, each line starts from the same point on the left, and reg right means that each line, it ends on different points here and there. I'm dehydrated. I'm speaking. I need to drink. I'm dehydrated. Oh my god. I have no liquid left. But anyways, we need to make sure that each line starts from similar point, so it's easier for our eyes to navigate from one line to another. When we have flush right, meaning that the text is aligned to the right, and reg left, meaning that each line on the left starts from different point, it's harder to navigate because your eyes are jumping from two different points from one line to another. So make sure when you have big blocks of text, large articles, you're using the flush left and reg right alignment, especially when your readers are reading from left to right. And last one is avoid centered alignment in large text for, again, similar reasons, because when we have center alignment, both from the left and the right sides, our text is not straightly aligned. So again, your eyes have to jump from one point to another when transferring from the line to the line. So yeah, make sure you use the this option when working with large blocks of text. Another technical aspect of typography is hierarchy. Hierarchy attributes to visual organization of the text, and it can be achieved through color, weight, capitalization, and style. We kind of touched upon the styles when we were talking about the type family, typeface, and font definitions. A style is the italic, bold, medium versions of a typeface. Capitalization speaks for itself. All the capitalized letters are looking like bolder and more statement making. The weight more attributes to the bolder, the lighter versions, so the contrast here allows you to make accent on particular words or maybe sentences, and color helps you to distinguish particular words or elements of your design. So here's an example. For the heading, I've used capitalization and weight. Large letters, they're bolder, they're clearly seen. Dark letters on the white background, so it's easier for the reader to perceive this text and to read it. The subheading can be distinguished from the main text in different ways. It can be a completely different style. Maybe you can opt for a completely different typeface, as I did here. It can be just the same size, but maybe a bolder version. The main text is normally in regular style and neutral hues, but you can make emphasis on some words or some important moments in the text using styles within the same typeface, or maybe within a different typeface, but make sure that they work together, or using color. Hierarchy is also achieved through typeface alterations, but just make sure to not overuse completely different typefaces because it can look overly chaotic. It can look cool on some posters or art, but for conventional prints, books, and magazines, they need to stay more tranquil, so opting for this version is preferable. I need to go and get some water because it's really hard for me to speak, so just bear with me, okay? I'm just gonna quickly Going back to the presentation, the last technical aspect of typography that we're going to discuss today refers to leading, tracking, and kerning. Leading refers to space between lines of type, so the optimal leading is normally 2 points over the type size that you're choosing. So for example, your type is 14 points, so opting for 16 points of leading would be probably the perfect option. Here we have an example of sufficient and proportional leading. Here we have overly condensed leading, so making no sense. Like, it's really hard to read this text and absolutely impossible to decipher what's going on in here. This is just annoying to read. Taking too much energy, this is absolutely unnecessary, so don't do that. When it comes to tracking, it refers to how tight or loose the space between letters is in a block of text type. When you're increasing the tracking, it increases the space between each letter in the word. These two options are more stylized, so used maybe in poster designs, maybe in some logos, but like in the normal conventional text, I would opt for the normal tracking. Kerning refers to manual adjustment of spacing between two letters. So when you're performing tracking, you're increasing the space between each and every letter. And kerning is manual adjustment of space between two single letters. So here, for example, we have the word faster. The default space between A and S is just too small. So I manually adjust it to make the word look visually more balanced. So this is how the kerning is performed. The tracking is automatic adjustment of space between each and every letter, and the kerning is a manual adjustment of space between two specific letter forms. Finally, to summarize everything we talked about in this video, I created these do's and don'ts when it comes to typography. In terms of things that you have to focus on, first of all, understand font psychology and purpose. This is crucial for making your messaging, your idea clear to the viewer, to the observer via your typography choice. Learning how to operate different font combinations and experimenting with those is crucial. Then prioritize legibility and readability. Again, you want your information to be enjoyable to read and consume. Then paying attention to hierarchy, how structured your texts are and how easy it is to remember. And then have fun. You know, typography is the world of experimentation. There are so many different variations of typefaces. It's art, it's design, it's meant to be fun and enjoyable. Then some of the don'ts, I would say the don'ts are more prominent. Don't overuse different types in one project. When it comes to more artsy, more passion projects, there are some exceptions to that. But when it comes to conventional design, oversaturated choice of fonts can be just very chaotic and disturbing. So make sure you know how to navigate that balance. Adding a stroke to small types. So here I'm giving an example of a script typeface called Nautica because it's very neat and very thin. When I'm automatically adding a stroke to it, it becomes really distorted. Like, we have this like really weird, everything is going wrong. So just don't do that. When it comes to don'ts, this is just a non-negotiable, I would say. Using vertical stacking just doesn't make any sense to me. This was invented for the languages where they read vertically from top to bottom. In those languages, in English specifically, using vertical stacking is completely unnecessary. Like, it's not clear, it's looking super weird, and yeah, let's just don't do that. Just don't. All rules can be broken in divinely successful ways. I wanted to finish with this quote because I feel like when it comes to design theory, especially referring to beginner designers, I mean, I definitely had that experience and I definitely felt that way. We tend to put too much pressure on ourselves and kind of stay true to all those rules and being too rigid. Learn the theory so you can navigate on more serious projects, but don't forget that design is about having fun and being experimental with different font combinations and typography. And sometimes breaking a rule can lead to some groundbreaking results and discoveries. I hope you enjoyed this little typography theory session. You can download the full guide down below this video for free. I also do design challenges and little advice sessions for creators on this channel, so make sure you're subscribed to not miss those in the future. DM me on Instagram at @madewithdaria. I love chatting with people. Maybe pop me a question if you have one, or just say hi. I really enjoy talking to you guys. Check out my video on how to start graphic design if you struggle to find any learning resources or practice strategies. Yeah, And I guess that's it for me. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!